The Cheating Death Podcast is a comedy information podcast containing information about everything and anything under the sun, provided and distributed objectively. We are not religious, nor we are political. We are merely litigious and completely analytical. Your discretion in this matter is advised. On today's episode of the Cheating Death Podcast, we provide some insight on how one can keep fighting from as objective a perspective as humanly possible. We provide you with an all-new Annihilation Announcement, a few new questions from the mailbag, a joke of the episode, and so much more. Top 5 spring drinks, something to make you think. With all the calamity in the world, dear listener, by now you know what to do. Grab yourself a coffee, grab yourself a blankie, put your feet up, and let us tell you how you can cheat death. This is your news anchor, the Cleric of Chaos, and this is your Annihilation Announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, global catastrophe is not imperatively evil. No, it is a byproduct of the actions of apathy. We need to take into consideration exactly how long it has been since we have been able to look at ourselves in the mirror and not feel completely stressed out over every aspect and element of our lives, and the amount of people and whom are experiencing this is only climbing. The wealth gap is widening, the social gap is deepening, and the concern for our fellow man is soon to be going out the way of the window. What we need to do is we need to work on being the best people we can possibly be, move forward, fight, and stay strong within each other. Do not let them divide you. This has been your news anchor, the Cleric of Chaos, and this has been your Annihilation Announcement. Willkommen, meine Freunde. Guten Morgen, guten Tag und eine gute Nacht. Ist deine Reisende und deine Ausländer und deine Allesfresser, deine Cleric of Chaos. And today, we are aware that spring is in the air, the scent of the humidity finally starting to reach the skies and float down to the ground, deep within the souls of the afflicted, of the sad and the depressed, who have been getting through this winter day by day, step by step, piece by piece. Your penance is near. Your reprieve is fairly close at hand. Now, if we take into consideration just how long this winter has felt, dear listeners, it feels like we are at a standstill of sorts. We understand that as each year of this decade has passed, things have only become more and more arduous. How is this, you ask? Well, as 2020 rolled around and the pandemic hit, second week of March, everything around the world shut down. It took with it not only the goods and services of places that would normally have been open. No, it took the souls of those who had routines. It took the lives of those who had illnesses. It completely changed the way a lot of social functions work. Yet, here we are, looking back, and still not really understanding or seeing exactly how and or why this all came to be. We take into account and consideration exactly how much it incapacitated the population, but the one thing that people are mentioning as it pertains to the fallout from the pandemic, the global disruption, the social isolation, the long-term illnesses in some people, is that some people are giving up a lot easier. Some people are throwing in the towel when normally they would be people in who would never, ever relent. How and why is this? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One, the soaring cost of living. You take into account anywhere virtually in North America right now, a lot of Europe hasn't been hit with as much. However, their inflation rates are still incredibly high. North America is in an economic and a social disaster right now. It has been for the better part of the last 3.5 to 4 years. Over the course of the next, let's say, 4 to 5 years, things are only going to get worse. Politically, analytically, economically. Labor markets are going to be further disrupted. There will more than likely be another subprime auto or mortgage crash, and there will more than likely be more bailouts. The goal of this episode is not to scare you. The goal of this episode is to prepare you for anything and everything that could possibly happen. As someone in whom has experienced quite a deal of calamity, as described by others, in the past 18 months to 2 years at this point, one of our best friends laughed as we were having coffee the other day and said, "Man, you've been through about 50 years of shit in 2 years. How do you keep going?" The answer was simple. There's no other option. When you take into account how much you, dear listener, yes, you, have experienced, how much you have been through in this life, whether you're 21 years old, whether you're 30 years old, whether you're 50 years old, whether you're 70 years old, or whether you're in fucking high school just getting your shit figured out and realizing, oh fuck, the government is making it so I can't go to school and I'm not going to be able to afford a house. What the fuck is the point of staying here? Well, university and college students are also asking themselves the same questions. Freshmen who are entering their first year this coming September are asking themselves what the point is. And the reality is that there is a point. It's just going to be a little bit more difficult to locate and to navigate, especially with the recent significant rises to the debt ratio to grant ratio of the Ontario Student Assistance Program and to other federal grant programs nationwide. In the United States, it has become even more arduous for people to go to school, not only on student loans, but also on grants and scholarships. So there is what is categorized as a brain drain. There is a significant lack of middle class and between low to middle class people enrolling in post-secondary institution studies that have to do with commerce, legal work, or medical work, simply because they cannot afford it. This, over the course of time, is going to lead to unmitigated disaster. It's already happening in Canada, and it has been a growing concern for the past 10 years. One of the only reasons why people don't really hear about how bad it is in Canada is because the government propaganda machine on an international level is nearly unmatched. That said, there are still a lot of people in both Canada and the United States who are struggling, languishing, and really not knowing what to do. So how do you not give up? How do you keep fighting? The answer dwells within yourself. But one thing that you have to take into consideration is that you have survived everything that you have done to this point. In order to survive the next calamity, the next obstacle, remove yourself from the situation. Remember to breathe. Take time your focus, grab a pen and a paper, and figure it out. This podcast will never have every answer for every question or every problem, but it is our goal to do what we can to help you figure out what this world is all about. Thank you for tuning in today. Take care of yourselves and each other. On this week's episode of the Mailbag, we begin with a question from Laura from Halifax. Hello, Cheating Death Podcast. We noticed that you have talked about liquor and beer every now and then. Our question is are you a liquor or a beer person? Thanks for the great content. Have a great day. Well, Laura, thank you so very much for your question. Truth be told, the host of this fine program used to be a beer person, predominantly imports in the 500 milliliter tall can variety, specifically your Hacker Shores, your Schneider Avantinas, your Scheckfars, your Tanghorst, and it's like a lot of Czech Republic, German, Austrian, Polish beer. Very, very, very good stuff, but haven't really had a lot of that for several years at this point and stick predominantly to tequila, rye, scotch, and whiskey. Occasional dark rum here and there when it's summertime, but generally speaking, silver or gold tequila. Thank you so very much for your question. Our next question comes to us from Harold, who comes to us all the way from the southwest, all the way down in Long Beach, California. Harold asks, Hi, Cheating Death Podcast. I noticed that you said you lived in California before. What is your favorite time, and is there anything in particular that you would like to mention about that time? Love your recent episodes about psychopaths. I have a lot of them in my life. I hope you have a great day. Alright, well, Harold, that's tremendous on both notes. I apologize that you have a lot of psychopaths in your life, but let's take this into account. The fact that you have been able to identify them means that you are one step ahead. My favorite time in California, back in 2006, 2007, was when I was living in a place called the Artist Mansion at 807 Flower Street in Los Angeles, California. Spent several months there trying to get gigs, working on artistic visual pieces, fine-tuning my capability of being able to figure out how instruments worked, and there was a great deal of lovely food around the area. So if I had to really pick one of the experiences, it would probably be when we went out to Mulholland Drive and hung out with a friend of ours until 4 in the morning, and then we went down to Skid Row and grabbed ourselves some food and went back to his house and just hung out for 3 days. Thank you so very much for your question, Harold. And our final question of the mailbag is coming to us direct from Young C, who comes to us from Boise, Idaho. Hello, Cheating Death Podcast. I just want to mention that you have a very fun voice and a very interesting demeanor. Do you watch a lot of stand-up comedy? If so, what is your favorite stand-up comedian? Wow, well, thank you so very much for the question, Yangtze. Really appreciate that. To be blunt, I love stand-up comedy as much as watching a television or a video film, whether it be a movie or whether it be a regular scripted sketch com. I love stand-up. It is tremendous and is actually one of the favorite elements of stage performance that I do personally. And I'm personally inspired by Christopher Titus, Dave Chappelle, and George Carlin. Those would be my top 3. I can't put one of them over the other, but they inspire not only my work, but also a lot of my worldview, and basically just to not trust anyone. Thank you so very much for your question, Yangtze. I really appreciate it. I hope Boise is treating you well. That's all for the mailbag this week, ladies and gentlemen. If you have a question that you want to send us, feel free to email us at thecheatingdeathpodcast@gmail.com. Today's joke of the episode is brought to you by the Cleric of Chaos. Eons ago, it was proposed to me that my mother said I should be more positive. And I said it's easier to be positive at funerals. At the top of today's episode, we promised you a list of our top 5 favorite spring drinks, so without further ado, let us dive right in. Coming in at number 5, we have a Starbucks Iced Venti Shaken Espresso. Coming in at number 4, we have Maker Bean Iced Mocha 24 ounces. Coming in at number 3, we have ourselves the Blue Raspberry 7-Eleven Slurpee. Coming in at number 2, we have ourselves the delicious Black and Lemon Iced Tea. And of course, coming in at number 1, We have everyone's favorite, the chocolate milkshake. What is your top 5? Email us at thecheatingdeathpodcast@gmail.com. We ultimately take for granted everything that we are taught as children when it comes to the subconscious element and the subliminal context of the media and of the information that we consume. The indoctrination that we receive at educational levels is at all-time highs when you take into consideration the overall intrinsic values, whether it be liberal, conservative, Republican, or Democrat. Those who control history control the course of time. Now you see, when it comes time to figuring out exactly how we got into this mess in 2026, we need to identify what led us here. Apathy, concern, and also an understanding that we thought we knew who we were voting for. Ultimately, at the end of the day, there is nothing more that we can do than try to make the best with what we can and move forward in a way that we had not conceived previously. Thank you for tuning in today. Take care of yourselves and each other. The Cheating Death Podcast is brought to you by Nacht dem Leben, CRDVC, Cleric of Chaos, and where you can find all podcasts on all platforms. We'd like to thank Ransom and Hunter Collins for their recent support to the Buy Me a Coffee Fund, and as well as Carol to her recent support to the Injury Support and First and Last Moving Fund. If you'd like to support the program, you may do so with a one-time gift at any of the links in the episodes or podcast description, or with a monthly subscription to our Spreaker or other profiles. If you would like to follow the friends of the program, you may do so at the links in the podcast and episodes description as well. Follow us at youtube.com/@clericofchaos, like, share, and subscribe, and follow us at Twitter at twitter.com/clericofchaos, twitter.com/weallcheatdeath, and youtube.com/weallcheatdeath. If you or anyone you know is experiencing psychiatric or psychological duress, emotional distress, or domestic violence, please call one of the toll-free numbers listed in the podcast and the episode's description as well. You are not alone. If you or anyone you know is looking at adopting a playful puppy or a cute kitten, please visit your local animal adoption rescue center. And remember, dear listener, your life is not a one-trick pony. There is no easy way, and there is no set list of circumstances that you can follow that will lead you to a guaranteed victory. Do your best. Remember, we're here for you. We're pulling for you. We're all in this together.